The wheel of time turns, and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Legend fades to myth, and even myth is long forgotten, when the age that gave it birth comes again. In one age called the third age by some, an age yet to come, an age long past. A wind rose in the mountains of mist. The wind was not the beginning. There are neither endings nor beginnings to the wheel of time, but it was a beginning. If that doesn't get you excited about the wheel of time, I don't know what to say. What's up, everybody? My name is Jordan, and welcome to my very first YouTube book review, and basically my first ever YouTube video, if we ignore some questionable stuff from my childhood. Also today, I'm reviewing the first book in the Wheel of Time series, The Eye of the World. So today is a day for firsts, and I'm really excited, so let's just get into it. So for those who don't know what the Wheel of Time is, I'm very sorry to hear that, but I'll give you a quick rundown as much as I can do credit in about 30 seconds. And of course, I'll try to keep this review as spoiler-free as possible. There's going to be a few contextuals, a few setting spoilers, and just very, very minor spoilers for the story. But nothing super big that'll spoil and ruin the whole entire story for you guys. So The Wheel of Time is a 14-book fantasy series. And there's also one prequel. So don't come at me in the comments saying you forgot about the prequel. I didn't, don't worry. And The Wheel of Time actually takes place on our planet, just in the very, very far future. And in this very far future, it's kind of in a post-apocalyptic, Renaissance-esque world. In this post-apocalyptic future, there's an ever-continuing battle between light and shadow. And this is because the Dark One has just been sealed and he hasn't really been killed. So there's just an endless battle between the light and shadow, the Dark One and the prophesized hero. So there are long stretches of peace and there are long stretches of war. In this world, old heroes are also the heroes of new, and history is continuously repeating itself. So the books constantly bring up the question whether what we do is futile. If history is continuously repeated, what's the point of trying to do different, you know? Now the land leans on a prophesized hero. He is prophesized to destroy the world while also saving it. So will he crack under the pressure, or will he rise up? Only one thing is for certain: the wheel weaves as the wheel wills. So now in the introduction, we are introduced to the main protagonist, Rand, and his father, Tam. Rand and Tam are in an area known as the Two Rivers. And the Two Rivers is kind of like the Wheel of Time counterpart of the Shire. And this does a great job at kind of introducing this world to you, because these farmers don't know anything about the world outside their little bubble. And you also don't know anything about this 14-book series. So I think this setting in the beginning just really sets up for the innocence of these characters and the naivety of these characters as well. So Rand looks over his shoulder and he sees this figure in a dark cloak following him. But the adults just say, "It's just your imagination, Rand. Have you been smoking a little too much from your pipe there, Rand? Because no one else can see this." But his friends Mat and Perrin can. So now we are introduced to a few more characters. And they're Egwene, Nynaeve, Moraine and Lan, Tom, and Padon Fane. So there's a lot of characters in this introduction. But don't think that Robert Jordan trades quantity for quality. Each and every one of these characters feels very, very unique. And within a few paragraphs of meeting them, you can already kind of get a feel for what these characters are like. Whether that's their personalities, their motivations, their kind of interpersonal relationships, and all these characters just feel really unique, and I think that's great. I admit that some of their names can be hard to remember in the beginning, and you don't know who Tom is, and you don't know who Egwene is, and you're still trying to figure out how to pronounce Nynaeve, whether it's Nynaeve or Nynaeve. But there's a glossary, so don't worry, and pronounce it how you want to. So now Moraine and Lan basically tell Rand and his friends Mat and Perrin that they gotta leave the village because these evil guys are chasing after them. And they gotta get to a place known as Tar Valon. Now they are thrown into the adventure, and also Egwene and Nynaeve tag along. And also Tom, the Gleeman, he follows along too. Without getting too much into the introduction, I just want to say that it does a great job at having this nice build up to what's going to happen, and then a great payoff in the introduction alone. This introduction also does a great job of kind of getting you on the edge of your seat for this story and what's going to happen. And I think it's just great. It just shines a light on how good Robert Jordan was at writing these very tense scenes. Now we get to the middle part, and the middle is a bit different because in the middle, we're not just following the point of view of Rand, but we're following the point of view of 3 different characters. So in these POVs, you can truly see characters' worldviews, what they think of the world around them, what they think of the people around them, and what they think of themselves. I think this middle part does a great job at kind of revealing the discomfort of these characters to the world around them, or maybe their steadfastness to the world around them in some situations. A lot of character arcs are also slowly getting the wheels rolling in this part. And a few questions that they'll ask throughout the whole entire series, their motivations, are being revealed in this part. I'm looking at you, Perrin. A great thing about this middle part too is that it opens up the world, and there's a lot of great world building, and it kind of just makes you feel like you're the sheep herder in the story. You're the country bumpkin who's just wandered into this new world. A lot of different people are introduced, a lot of different races, a lot of different prejudices, and a lot of different just creatures and things. It makes you really feel immersed in this world. I think one thing that could have been improved about this middle part is a bit of the pacing of a certain point of view. I'm looking at you, Rand, Mat, and Tom. And this part is kind of linear. It's kind of point A, point B, point C, point D, and the same exact things are happening. I think a little bit should have been shaved off of it to improve, but luckily it's only 50, 60 pages, so it shouldn't at all kind of discourage you from reading this book. So the ending of this book is kind of a source of contention among fans, among new readers of this book. But I'm on the side that thinks this ending is kind of satisfying. I think the ending does a good job of wrapping up some loose plot points in this story, and it also serves a good purpose at kind of getting you on the edge of your seat and wanting to read the next book. It's very easy in the ending just to be really confused and wondering what in the world just happened. But I wouldn't let this discourage you, because even the main characters of this story are wondering what in the world just happened. So now I'm going to talk about some things that I didn't really get to touch on in talking about the intro, middle, and end, but I'm just going to talk about now. So overall, this book has great rereadability. I think if you're a first-time reader, you might miss a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of things that are foreshadowed that don't even happen until the last book. And I think it's just a testament to Robert Jordan's writing ability and his planning that he had all these things planned out when he wrote the first book. So I think this makes it a great purchase because you can probably read it twice, even thrice, and you might still find things that you didn't discover last time. So a main common criticism of this book is that it's very similar to Tolkien's Fellowship of the Ring. Yes, that's true, but that's kind of what Robert Jordan set out to do, and I don't really think it takes away from the experience of the book. It's still a great book. It feels unique, somewhat. But if you're not a big Fellowship of the Ring fan, if you just absolutely hate Fellowship of the Ring, I'm not too sure if I can talk to you anymore, but I wouldn't read this book. So the detail, a lot of Wheel of Time fans will constantly bring up how Robert Jordan loves his details, and sometimes he's a bit too over-detailed. I'm kind of in the middle grounds. So I think in this book that Robert Jordan does a great job of describing some things, and some exposition dumps reveal lots about these different characters and what they know about the world and their innocence. However, in some places, the exposition and the descriptions can get a little bit inorganic. For example, every time you meet a new king or a new innkeeper, sometimes he just tells a 2-page long story, and it's like, okay, bro, just chill. We just met, you know? relax. But in some places, it's like a teacher teaching someone, or a wise person teaching someone, or just kind of explaining how to do something. I think in those places, it works great. And I'll add as the last point that Loial. I love Loial. So Loial is basically just an anthropomorphic kind of doggy bear dude who loves to read and write and is super scholarly, and he's just a G. He's like 90 years old. And I know what you're thinking. He's not a furry. Don't worry. No offense to any furries watching this. So yeah, just read the book for Loial. So overall, if you couldn't tell, I really like this book. And while it's not Robert Jordan's best writing, it is certainly nothing short of a great read. I think this book is great for if you're new to fantasy, or if you're even new to reading, this book can be a good experience. And I think if you're not ready to be invested in a 14-book series, I know it's very long, this book serves a good start, and it's kind of almost like a standalone book. So you can read this book. If you don't want to read the rest of the books, so be it. Of course, the story suffers from a little bit of pacing issues and a little bit of too much description here and there, but it makes up for this in its many strengths. So if my review even slightly interested you, then I think you should just give this a definite read. And if you're kind of still on the fence, you're not really super interested, you're not really disinterested, I would say that read the introduction, read the first 200 pages. If you're not hooked, if you're not excited to see what happens, then don't read it. If reading this book is almost like, oh, I just got to get through this is kind of a burden, I wouldn't read it. If you read this book, let me know. The Wheel of Time is a great ride, and I hope you guys have a lot of fun reading it. So thanks everybody for watching to the end of my first ever YouTube book review. If you disagree with me, then let me know in the comments. If you agreed with something I said, let me know in the comments. If you have any comments to make, how I can improve my setup, how I can improve my recording, maybe my mic isn't on properly, let me know in the comments. And thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.